sorry, but a movie I think gets a bad rap. I'm not saying I love this movie. It's a movie I find very interesting, but I don't dislike it, and I think it got too much hate. Batman v Superman. The ultimate cut.
You're preaching to the choir here, dude.
The ultimate cut.
I would love to hear what you have to say.
I have a weird relationship with this movie.
You are preaching to the choir. I don't know what else to say other than I completely agree with you. Go on. I'm sorry I interrupted.
Yeah. So as a big, like, I grew up a DC boy. I loved Batman and Superman. And so I had been, you know how you were saying you Google Michael Mann new movie all the time? From
yes, in the confidence
from from eighth grade to pretty much, you know, I guess I would have been like a sophomore or junior in college by the time this movie came out. From that length on, I Googled yearly Batman v Superman movie because it had been in the works for a long time. Yeah. I had as a desktop picture of one of my very first laptops.
Man, like making me sad.
It was a fan edit of Batman and Superman movie with Brandon Routh's Superman and Christian Bale.
Oh my
Batman.
gosh.
Wow.
Wow.
It was like a fan edit. So like I've been looking forward to this movie. So like I remember so hyped for this movie. Like I watched the trailer a million times. I was a fan of Man of Steel. I was like ready. And then I remember I went to go see the movie, and I had heard some rumblings on the internet, you know, wasn't getting some favorable reviews, but I was like holding a hope, like, okay, it's going to be a little mixed, you know?
Yeah.
I get to the movie theater. The showing before saw it. So they're walking out, and these guys, like, for some reason felt like they had to approach me and be like, hey man, don't get your hopes up.
Oh my gosh.
He said it's bad. And I was like, no, like, and he was like, it's bad. And I watched it, and I remember watching it going, I get it. But also, this movie is so interesting. And it's not a case of a movie that just misses on everything. It's a movie that doesn't do a lot of things right.
Sure.
But it's doing so many things that other comic book movies just don't even try to attempt.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, it has a bunch of dorm room philosophy. Like, I'm not saying the movie is like really philosophically smart, but it takes those dorm room philosophical ideas and it does investigate them in a really interesting way. So the idea that like Zack Snyder sees Superman as the way to examine America. And so like, you have this being of absolute power, and he's equating Superman to this image of America, of like America with all this power, but tarnished responsibility. And so like in Zack Snyder's world, of course, a country like that would look at a being of supreme power with distrust. Yeah. And he kind of uses this post 9/11 skepticism on America's golden boy. Right. And this idea of like, can a being of absolute power be absolutely good? Yeah. And it's the classic, you know, theological question. Sure. And he uses Batman's, you know, kind of like Dick Cheney conservative, like, yeah, Superman's an illegal immigrant kind of posturing to examine that. I mean, dude, it's accurate. Okay. Keep going. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just this Frankenstein monster of a movie that is just impossible not to look at and be like engaged. Yeah, I am right there with you. And I think that, the theatrical version of that movie made a lot less sense than the ultimate cut, the ultimate edition. I think the ultimate edition improved upon what was there quite a bit. That's true. And yeah, I agree with you. I think that it explores some, it mines some unfamiliar ground for for Spider-Man. Did you watch a different cut? Yeah, I did. They had Tobey Maguire. It mines some unfamiliar ground for superhero movies, which I think put a lot of people off of it. And I admire the swing, to be honest, because make no mistake about it, it's a huge swing. It's literally an hour and a half before any really true action happens. An hour and a half of all the characters debating the theological implications of someone like Superman existing, having the power that he has. Yeah. Yeah, it's a movie that like really examines a disenchanted America of like, you know, again, that he kind of picks up the Christopher Nolan like post 9/11 kind of like skepticism of America of like, oh, the American consciousness has lost its innocence,
right,
and realize that maybe this isn't a perfect place.
Yeah.
And you take, you know, this classically American icon like Superman, and you go, wait, can we, in a world where all of our power structures have shown to be sketchy, can we trust another super powerful being to have our best interests in mind?
Right.
And the fact that it dedicates itself to an hour and a half of just that like debate is so interesting to me.
Yeah. It's
know?
fascinating.
Because if you would have picked 10 other filmmakers and said, hey, make a Batman v Superman movie, I guarantee you no one would come close to making that type of movie.
Yeah.
Is that a defense that it's great? No. But it's a defense that it's very interesting.
Yeah. It is a unique, and I mean, Zack Snyder did something really unique with all of the DC movies that he did. I mean, they're all just so different, and they take a different look, and it's decidedly darker, and I think it's really interesting.
I mean, there are some
what
really
he decides to do with all of his.
Again, it
DC
doesn't
movies.
all mesh, but there's some really interesting moments.
Yeah,
there's some great moments,
some really good moments.
So, like, really, my opinion is like, I'll never say it's a great movie. I think it's kind of like this, again, best way to describe it is like this Frankenstein monster that is compelling, but maybe not like traditionally good.
Yeah.
But it's very compelling. I love the big swings, like you said.
Yeah.
I think there are moments in it that like really shine.
Yeah.
And I've never had a view, like I've watched it like a handful of times. I've never had a viewing experience where I didn't come away with something new.
Yeah.
And like
something else that you were like, oh, that was good.
What more can you ask
like
for?
that piece of it, or I like that part of it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So,
I totally agree.
Okay. This one's actually gonna be a two-parter. And I think it's because that it's a movie and its sequel, and I think they equally get a bad rap.
Okay.
Prometheus and Covenant, Alien Covenant.
Yep.
I
agree with this. I completely agree with this.
I can confidently say we are not those people who were like, who hated it and then secretly claimed to like it the whole time. We watched that movie in theaters. We went back to my parents' house because we were in like high school or college.
Don't know when it came out, but
yeah, like 2012 or 2013 or whatever. And we talked about it. I remember we talked about it 4 hours.
Yeah, we literally like late into the night, especially after the first one, Prometheus, because it was like there was so much to figure out, kind of like the lore.
A lot of world
there was
building.
a lot of like, exactly. So it was, that was a blast. That movie was so much fun.
Dude, just visually alone, it's so beautiful. Like Ridley Scott just does not miss on visuals.
No. Yeah, I loved Prometheus, and I feel like the second movie got even more crap, the sequel, and I thought that movie was a blast.
Yeah.
Like, not only was it serious sci-fi, but it was like fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's very rewatchable.
Here's my thing about
I think
Prometheus and Covenant. Because when it first came out, what did everyone say? Like the whole plot hole people got into it and were like trying to find all the plot holes. And they were like, these characters are so stupid. But then once you watch Prometheus and Covenant, you realize that what Ridley Scott is doing is he's using the idea of creator creation, which is a theme that comes up in a lot of his work, especially like Blade Runner, creator versus creation.
Yeah.
Alien, creator versus creation. I think Kingdom of Heaven has some themes about like the creator and the creation, the connection there.
Yeah.
But by using this prequel series as a way to investigate not just the xenomorphs in particular, which I think was another reason people didn't like it, was like, it wasn't really even focused on the xenomorphs. We just got it a little bit. It's like, yeah, that's the point. He's like using the franchise ability of the xenomorph to backdoor tell a story about androids and humans. And by making Prometheus a quest for humans to find who created them, and then make the main character an android who was created by humans, creates some really thematically rich tension about like, what do creators owe their creation? And so you have the humans going like, okay, how did we get created as a species? They have all this reverence for the creators. And you have David, who is being treated like crap by his creators. And he's going through like, how much do I owe them? And then when it turns out that the engineers are just totally ambivalent to humans and just could not care less.
Yeah.
It opens up the door for David to have the same awakening that, oh, well, if my creator's creator didn't care, then why should I care about my creator?
Yeah.
And I think what Ridley Scott is getting at is this idea of, is humanity even like worth valuing, which is really nihilistic. But like through David,
oh man,
the reason the characters in Prometheus and Covenant are so stupid is because they're movies about David and someone who's created by humans being disenchanted with his gods.
Yeah.
And like you apply that to humanity, and it's a very nihilistic idea of like, whoever created us, Ridley Scott is posing the idea of like, are we even worthwhile? Like maybe our creator didn't even care about us. If we don't care about our creations as humans, maybe who created us doesn't care. And I think he's painting this really bleak, almost theological statement and using the alien xenomorph world to investigate that. And I'm like, yeah, of course his human characters are stupid. It's a movie about a robot being disenchanted with his creators.
Well, and I mean, it's posing that question like, is humanity too far gone? Right. That idea of, are we to a place as a society where like we can't be saved anymore. Our minds can't be changed. We're too stuck in our ways. Like all we want to do kind of is discover and conquer and like keep that same pattern going our entire existence.
Exploit.
And you know, and so it's asking that question like, well, are we even worth saving anymore? Because we've been given opportunities, and like there's a underlying kind of there's something that happens in the movie that's kind of an underlying theme that they don't really talk about, but it's like being given an opportunity to change and not changing as a society, and kind of going further down the path of destruction. And so I think it's posing that question, which is really nihilistic, as you said, but a really, really interesting question for us to think about. And I think it does exactly what a great filmmaker should do, which is challenge a little bit, and use this world, build this world, and then challenge the audience and say like, so what about you? What do you think?
Yeah.
Like,
it's a really like, in a good way, sick philosophy to ponder in an action franchise to be like, if we create things and are just totally disrespectful, flippant to them, who's to say that our creator isn't the same way? And I'm not saying that's like a worthwhile theology to have in your own personal real life, but in a fictional world, that's a very deliciously sick idea to have as the backbone of your drama.
Well, and in a vacuum and in a story that is fiction, it's a really interesting question to ask yourself.
Yeah.
And to like pose to yourself, like, well, what am I doing that's kind of paralleling these, like the things that the characters in these stories are doing? And if I ask myself and like really look at myself and examine, like, am I kind of, like pushing some of these same things that the movie is saying is wrong? Like, am I exploiting certain things that I shouldn't be exploiting, or am I not, treating my creations?
Are we responsible? Are we responsible enough over the things we have power over?
Right.
Are we good stewards?
Exactly. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
And like, I just love the whole idea of like,
but it's dressed. I just love that it's that rich of like, challenges and questions and like kind of pushing the audience, but it's dressed as like this sci-fi kind of action, horror, thriller.
And especially Covenant, like there's some like really intense like action scenes.
Well, there's some really intense themes of just like dealing with the idea that how you thought the world was all along is not the way you thought it was. And you've been wrong this whole time, and now you have to deal with that grief. Yeah. It's man, it's kind of crazy.
It's the idea of like, can answers really help you? Because like the humans in Prometheus go on this huge quest to find, you know, the engineers who created them. And it turns out that they just don't care. Yeah. They created them in like some, you know, we never really know the full motive behind that original engineer who created us, but like
they don't get super specific about all of that stuff, which I think is better.
It doesn't seem to be totally intentional. And so it just makes you think like these human characters went so far to find answers that did nothing to them. And they could have been spending all that time doing something better.
Yeah.
So it's just really interesting. And
they could have been spending all that time like bettering the world that they lived on.
It kind of has some Ad Astra adjacent themes too.
Interesting that you say Ad Astra.
Oh, you're gonna bring it up?
Because on my list...
Well, hold on, let me wrap up the Prometheus real quick.
Okay.
Michael Fassbender. That's it. Just like Michael Fassbender in both those movies,
Wrapped
but
up.
Especially Covenant, just he's worth it alone. So yeah, Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, he's amazing in those movies.
We mentioned at the beginning with Brad Pitt, Ocean's 12. Mm-hmm. And I rewatched the Ocean's movies last year, or in 2020. Mm-hmm. And one underrated trilogy. Like it's one of the best trilogies of all time.
Yeah.
But Ocean's 12, honestly, in my opinion, is the best movie, or at least the most entertaining in that trilogy, and yet it's the lowest rated, and it makes no sense to me.
Interesting.
Because the things Soderbergh is playing with visually are just like out of this world.
Yeah.
He is doing so much with the digital medium in Ocean's 12 that it's just like, I just love it. It's just, Brad Pitt has never been more charismatic than in Ocean's 12.
Yeah, that's true.
I love that opening where he's like kind of like, oh, what's the actress's name? Is it Catherine Zeta-Jones? Is she? Is that? I mean,
Julia
lover?
Roberts is in it.
Well, Julia Roberts playing Julia Roberts is just like, that's what cinema was invented for. Okay. Cinema was invented so one day, like humans discovered that if you take pictures at 24 frames per second and you project them through light on a wall, that this would lead one day to the iconic actress Julia Roberts playing a character in a movie who then has to impersonate Julia Roberts because the characters in the movie think that she looks like Julia Roberts because she is Julia Roberts. And no other director, I swear, no other director has the stones to come up with that and put it in his movie unironically and pull it off like Steven effing Soderbergh, one of the best American directors all time.
Hey man, you don't have to convince me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, the opening with Brad Pitt.
Wow, you got so aggressive.
Anyway, the opening with Brad Pitt, where he's like, he's with the girl and he's like pretending not to be the con artist that he is, and then she's investigating a thief, and she's like, yeah, we got his footprint, and he's like taking off his boots, and they're like, yeah, we traced it to this specific boot, and he's like, ugh, and he's like, yeah, we got this DNA evidence, and he's realizing she's gonna catch him, so then he has to like kind of sneak out. Like that opening is great. Yeah, it's just Ocean's 12 is the best. It's just the best. Yeah, but let us know what movies you think are slept on or underrated. Leave a comment. Hey, I want to bring this up, okay?
Here we go.
This is a plea. Please rate our podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you've been enjoying these videos on YouTube or listening to it on Spotify or Apple, like, give us a rating, because we only have one Apple Podcast rating, and that's a crime. That's a crime.
Yeah.
You know?
Who is it? Is it me?
No, it's Anna.
Oh. I haven't even.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like, I don't even use Apple Podcasts, but like, yeah, I feel like we should get some ratings.
Sure, yeah.
Like, is it really going to hurt you to give some professional appreciators like us a 5-star rating?
Throw us a rating, and honestly, if it's not 5 stars, whatevs. You know?
Who's that hurting?
Yeah.
Who's gonna come to your door and arrest you because you gave our podcast a 5-star rating when really you think it's like a 3.5?
Yeah. Throw us a rating. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's fun.
Grade us on a curve.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So I think you can rate on Spotify, but that's just not as big of a feature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do have it now, though.
If you do write a review on Apple Podcasts, I promise I will read it on the podcast. So maybe that gives you some incentive.
Whoa.
That gives you some incentive to go out and do it.
Yeah,
so
let's do that.
Positive or negative, as long as it's not like superly wildly inappropriate.
We got some good comments on the last video.
Yeah, we got some interaction.
Starting some good discussion. That was fun to read.
Yeah.
That people are discussing. Made me think differently about some things. I like that whenever people bring stuff up and it's like, oh yeah, that's a different way of thinking about it. I hadn't thought about that before. So, and interact. I like that.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. So yeah, if you give us a review on Apple Podcasts, I will read it no matter what. So positive, negative, you know? So there you go. What more can you ask for?
Yep. And Andrew, after he reads it, will send it to me immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will butcher your username.
Yeah.
That's a guarantee.
There you go.
Yeah. So, well, that's been the Professional Appreciators. You can find us on YouTube at Why It's Great. Find us Spotify, Apple. I guess we'll see you next time.
See you next week.
And maybe we'll think of a topic a little earlier than right when we sit down to record.
Edit this out.
Edit this out. This whole thing. Edit it out. All right. See ya.
Bye.